human zoos, the history they erased. Step 1. The beautiful lie of Paris. In 1905, Paris was called the City of Lights. The world saw it as the center of art, science, and elegance, a symbol of progress. But behind that image was something monstrous, a place where Africans were treated like animals. While Europe bragged about being civilized, it was building cages for human beings. The same hands that built the Eiffel Tower built human zoos. Step 2. The human zoo. A reality they don't teach you. This was not a metaphor, it was real. The French called it an exposition coloniale, but let's call it what it truly was, a human zoo. Africans, kidnapped from their homeland, stripped of freedom, stripped of clothes, stripped of dignity, and forced to live on display for white audiences to stare at. These men, women, and children were seen as entertainment, like animals in a circus. This was the true face of colonial Europe. Step 3. The European gaze of superiority. Look at their faces in this photo. The men in suits, the women in their dresses, hats, gloves, umbrellas, the elite class of France. They stood there staring, laughing, pointing, like they were observing a different species. And that was the point. Europeans wanted to show the world that Africans were primitive, wild, and less than human. This was not just entertainment, it was propaganda. Step 4. Stolen lives, stolen humanity. The Africans in this zoo weren't volunteers. They were kidnapped from their homes. Entire villages were raided. Families were broken apart. Children were ripped from their mothers' arms. Why? Because Europeans believed they owned Africa. They believed they owned African people. In their twisted logic, these Africans were specimens to be studied, not humans with culture, history, and soul. Step 5. Science or racism, disguised as science. They called it ethnology, the study of different human groups. But this was not science. It was racism wearing a white coat. These zoos were designed to prove that Africans were closer to animals than Europeans. That was the lie that justified colonization and slavery. They even measured skulls, noses, and lips to rank races. This was scientific racism, fake science built on white supremacy. Step 6. Black bodies as public entertainment. Picture this: Africans forced to dance, swim, and perform tribal rituals for food. Europeans watching and laughing, calling them savages for entertainment. Children grew up in cages, being fed and stared at like animals. Some were even forced to fight for amusement. This wasn't just humiliation. It was psychological warfare to break the spirit of African people. Step 7. The biggest lie ever told Europe said, "We brought you Christianity. We brought you civilization." But what kind of civilization puts human beings in cages? What kind of civilization kidnaps mothers and fathers, forces them to live like animals, and calls it education? The truth: the colonizer was the real savage. They preached God while committing crimes against humanity in God's name. Step 8. The mental chains were the real goal. This wasn't only about physical captivity. This was about breaking the mind. When the world sees you in a cage, when children grow up seeing their people treated like animals, they start to believe they are less than human. That was the colonizer's greatest weapon. Not the gun, but the lie. This is how white supremacy was planted, through humiliation and psychological destruction. Step 9. The history they erased. Have you ever seen this in a school textbook? Number. They won't show you this because it destroys the illusion of European greatness. They'll teach you about French art, the Eiffel Tower, and the beauty of Paris, but not the fact that Paris humiliated Africans in front of the world in 1905. They erased it to protect their image, but the photo you see is the truth they tried to hide. Step 10. Why this matters today. Some people say, that was a long time ago, move on. Number. Because the mindset behind this photo never died. It lives in the way black people are portrayed in media, in stereotypes, in police brutality, in racism that still exists today. This photo is not just history, it is a warning. Never forget. Never be silent. Speak the truth. Teach your children. Because if we don't, history will repeat.